Another day. A little better slept than I have been lately, but having a good time. And I finally met easily considered a new friend, Rourke, and solid dude. I mean, this guy's been around the planet, SEAL team leader. He does motivational talking, leadership courses and stuff. He's been hunting on Meat Eater a couple times. He's buddies with that Steve Brunel dude, and knows a lot of people that a lot of you know. But he's an authentic human being, and that's the type of human being that I collect at this stage of the game. I don't give a shit who you are, what you got. Believe me. But those authentic, kick-ass human beings are rare, tough to come by. He's definitely one of them. And yeah, probably without a doubt made a new friend for sure, a true friend. Great guy. But so anyways, what I'm thinking about doing, we bullshit and talking nonstop, and we blew it on a great big turkey twice today. So that's kind of fun. We got a little goal to get that huge gobbler knocked down, hopefully tomorrow. And I think him and my other partner, between the two of them, they probably had 2 hours sleep. He didn't get here too real late, so we left that place alone. They're having naps, and I'm out here in the woods, so I'm gonna do my usual, get some voices heard, and then I'm gonna carry on my daylight quest of slipping through here like an assassin to find some hogs. I found a big one yesterday, but the wind got me again at my back. But what I might do, I haven't sprang the topic on. I don't talk about what we talk about here anywhere. I just don't. I've already shared with everybody why. I honestly believe it's an absolute waste of time to bring this topic up to people who don't know anything about it. It doesn't concern them. It just is a waste of time. But if people have an honest curiosity, I'll talk. If you want to come up and you see me in public and ask me about it, I'll talk to you about it. But other than that, I don't put it on my social media. I think I did 2 posts of footprints on Instagram. That's it. I just don't do it. But I'm thinking maybe we'll see. It may be an interesting conversation to talk to somebody who possibly will laugh at the topic. I'll run it by. I'll ask him if maybe I'll say to him later on. I'll say, hey, look, do you want to go on my YouTube channel with me and talk to me about anything I pick without pre-warn? And if he says yes, then maybe I'll do it that way. And we'll see how it would go. An honest conversation with an A-type guy who's been around the world. I haven't a clue if he even knows about this topic that we talk about here or not. I don't know. And it may be an interesting conversation to see how I deliver it to him, what we go back and forth with, the questions asked, or if he just laughs, shrugs it off, or starts to get a look on his face like I'm a complete psychopath. You never know, right? Maybe I should do that. We'll see. I might try that. Try it. I might leave that door open and I'll see. I'll know a little later on, but we're all going to be together for I think 5 days, so. And it's looking like we might be going to Texas on Wednesday. I'll keep everyone posted. I think that'd be an interesting conversation. You can look him up. Rourke Denver, if you want to Google his name up. Solid dude, there's nothing pretentious about him. He's not on. You know what I mean? He's just Rourke, for sure. Why I like him. Now, who do we got? What do we got? All right, here we go. More voices being heard. The most important voices in the world, as far as I'm concerned, the people, right? The people. Keep an eye out behind me. Let me know some hogs or big turkeys behind me. Hey Steve, my name is Lori Fensk, and you may use it freely. I've written before, but I think I sent it to the wrong email address, LOL. I've been watching your show for some time and really enjoy it. Helps me to focus when I'm at work. Night nurse in long-term care facility. I currently live near Utopia, Texas for the last 30 years, and I love the hill country. My small 40-acre ranch is private and peaceful. I have wild boar, white-tailed foxes, and the occasional cougar sighted in this area. But before all that, Before my military time and living abroad in Germany, there was Michigan. And I was born a city child in East Lansing, Michigan. I moved to the suburbs by kindergarten, rural Wisconsin from age 10 to 15, then back to Michigan. Between the towns of Cass City and Caro, all that's with C's, C-A-S-S and C-A-R-O. My parents rented a farmhouse out of pure need because I had horses since age 10. We also had a few English bulldogs, which was my parents' hobby of breeding and showing them all over the USA, Canada, and even to a World Dog Show in Peru, which my dad won Best in Show with his dog Garth. Well, that's pretty cool. Anyway, we're living in this farmhouse on Herd's Corner Road. It's up on a small hill with 100 acres of corn growing below the barn plateau. At the left side edge of the field was a stand of woods, maybe 4 acres large, tall maples and pines that belonged to another farmer. He had made a maple shack in there, and I was able to see and taste the final product of pure maple syrup made there. Store-bought is a poor imitation. I just recently ate some of that a little while ago. I love to go into those woods to study, nap, and explore. I've woken up from a nap and heard a buck snort and blow close behind me, LOL. Well, one day, I decided to walk about 7 of our bulldogs down to the woods. I had 3 loose and 4 on leashes. We get to within 50 yards of the woods, and the dogs all stopped cold, on high alert, and silently watching the woods with hackles raised. I looked them over, followed their line of sight to the trees, and felt like today was not a good day to be there. Dogs and I turned around as one unit and went home, no questions asked, LOL. I'd watched all the Bigfoot shows I could since I was about 12 years old, so I knew our area could definitely be considered prime habitat. I've seen the Cass River Bigfoot video and would love to know exactly where it was, as my grandpa's farm is less than a quarter mile from the Cass River. Would I like to see one? Maybe. But I definitely want my dogs there to warn me. I rode my horses in state lands all around where we lived and never felt any sense of danger. But that 4-acre woods on that one and only day definitely felt dangerous. Sometimes you don't have to see to believe. I'm one of those people. Thank you for listening to my subtle but real account, and I have a friend that lives in Nanaimo, works in road construction and mining. I'm still picking his brain for any sightings on Vancouver Island, and I'd love to visit there someday. I'm 60 now, so it's on my bucket list. Take care, and God bless everyone in your care. All right, thanks for that email. Glad you're here, and if anything, from your location drop, maybe we'll hear from somebody in the comment section below or email in about the exact same area. I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised. Next. This is titled, Just Standing in the River. Hi Steve, I live in Colorado and was always skeptical about the existence of these things until about 10 years ago. One of my brothers came out to visit from the East Coast and wanted to do some rock hounding. I live in Buena Vista, and we have a bunch of savage wilderness all around. I took him to a place well known for gathering garnets and cool rocks. Now I must add that I have worked in 2 different state prisons, and I'm very keen on details and horrible situations. Facts and accurate report writing are a must. Both my brother and myself have 20/20 vision and have been in the woods for our whole life. Hunting, camping, fishing, you name it, we've done it. And we were up on a cliffside approximately 300 feet above the Arkansas River in Browns Canyon when I looked down at the river. What looked like, oh, typo, I think he meant Chewbacca from Star Wars, was standing near the river about 100 yards downstream. And I say Chewbacca because the color of the hair was the same, only in comparison, Chewbacca would have been much skinnier. Ooh. I tapped my brother and I said, look right there, it looks like a frickin' Bigfoot. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? He affirmed that I was not hallucinating, and we just stared at it for 5 more seconds. The creature was looking in our direction, and I know it was watching us also. It took 2 slow steps back, without moving its arms, as if trying for a minimal, noticeable movement, and disappeared into the trees. We stood there for a few more moments trying to make excuses for what we clearly saw. It was the strangest experience I've ever had. Again, I must say it was summer and no hunting season was on. And I owned a ghillie suit, and it was not that, because at that distance I could see hair. I could not make out the details of the face at that distance, but it appeared fairly flat, with no prominent features. And as far as my feelings were concerned, I was more in amazement than fear. We had the high ground, and some reasonable distance from it, and my Jeep was just over the other side. I cannot deny the evidence of my own eyes, and I've gone over the scenario in my head for years. I would not have wanted to be any closer to it because it was very big and powerful looking. I always carry in the wilderness, but looking at that thing, my .45 would probably have felt like a bee sting to it. The experience has not kept me from the wild because I figured the law of averages. One experience in my life at 47 years old, I'll probably never see another one. If the subject comes up, I tell my story to people and, like you, don't care what they think. So, feel free to use my name. Your channel is one of my favorites for both hunt stories and this subject. Thanks, Sean L. Ague. Sean, I appreciate your honesty, man. Big time. And your generosity in taking that time to email us. Welcome to the club. And unfortunately, once they know you know, the chances go real high that you'll probably see or experience again. This is the way it is. This next title is A Scout Sniper Shares With Us. Can you guys believe how many frickin' emails have came my way? For a quick side note, seriously? Isn't this frickin' amazing how many frickin' emails have come here from around the world? How much truth is out there that we've never been shown? Sorry. Hi Steve, I recently discovered your channel on YouTube as we just got Netflix on our smart TV. Otherwise I'm not socially connected at all, so this is a whole new thing for me. I'm hooked on your channel. I appreciate your straightforward, honest approach to dealing with issues and people. A little background on me. I'm 57 and have had a lifelong passion for deer hunting, trapping and fishing. I've spent hundreds of hours camping, scouting, and hunting the western states pursuing my passion. I spent 11 years in the USMC Recon, most of which as a scout sniper. I was involved in many missions all over the Middle East and Africa and Serbia, and I saw a lot of combat and horrible things. I can handle myself in the woods or anywhere else. My son, he is also a very passionate outdoorsman, hunter, found you on YouTube and convinced me that I needed to write to you and tell you my story. He's one of only a few people I've ever told, but he knows my word is the only thing that matters to me, so if I said it, happened. If I said it, it happened. I watched some of the TV shows and heard some of the broadcasters and personalities, and all seem to think that this is some sort of a joke. I wonder how much time they spent in the woods, or how much time they spent with mortars going off around them, and .762 AK-47 rounds flying by their face. I wonder why their word would be more honest than mine. Douchebags. All the vent you'll get out of me. It was '06. I was hunting in Central Oregon on the east side of the Cascade Range, trying to kill a big blacktail. I had my base camp set up at about 4,000 feet. I think in a small clearing about 4 miles from any road. I spent the first 2 days scouting and found a buck that I wanted to try for, so on the third morning I set off an hour before sunrise and started heading up the slope to a good spot where I could easily glass a couple meadows at first light. I got set up, leaned my rifle against the tree and started wiping the dew off my binoculars and opened up a power bar. It was still a little dark to see, so I started tuning my eyes into the meadow while I ate my breakfast. I'd made at least 20 do-it-yourself hunts in western states in my life, but never to this particular area, as I have never killed a big blacktail, and this is supposed to be a good area. Not having the funding for an outfitter slash guide, I always went by myself on public land and had a good time. So, first light comes. I start glassing the meadow. I heard some noise off to my left. The west, it sounded like something was coming up the ridge, and it's going to come out in a small neck down that fed into the meadow. So I turned, got my rifle up, assuming it was a deer, and I can see movement in the brush about 100 yards to my west, but the brush was thick enough I couldn't make it out, but I could tell it was not a deer. Eventually, I could make out that it was upright, so I assumed it was another hunter. He got to the edge of the meadow and stood there, kind of crouching behind some bushes. So I'm getting a little pissed off as someone else, couple typos, got in the same exact area I was in, and I hadn't seen a soul in the 2 days I scouted, or even any human tracks. So I rose up slowly and whistled at that guy, waving my right arm over my head to let him know, hey, there's a hunter here, go somewhere else. He immediately wheeled to his right to face me directly. When he did that, I could see he was immense across his shoulders. I thought, holy Christ, I'm 6'2", 220. He made me look like a child. As soon as he saw me, even though it was dimly lit, I could tell we were looking at each other. And he ducked down in the bushes. And I thought, what the hell? Yeah, I've had that what the hell at 15 yards. Same deal. So I set my rifle back against the tree and stepped out into the meadow so he could get a clear look at me. I started walking toward him. I want to hunt this area. I want him to go somewhere else. And there's plenty of time for him to leave and do that. I took about 5 steps and he stood up again. This time I could tell it was not a man. It was just too damn big and covered in hair. And he started grunting at me and shaking the bushes in front of it. My rifle was still leaning against the tree where I had originally sat, but I raised my binoculars up and looked at his face. Now I can't tell you a ton of details as I was totally startled, but he had dark hair, certainly, all over what I could see except for the face. There was a lot of flesh in the face, broad forehead, broad nose, big lips, and a huge set of shoulders and chest. I could never see his legs very well because of the brush. But I've spent countless hours looking through binoculars and a rifle scope, and I know exactly what I'm looking at when I'm looking at it. And this was no man. And it was no ape. And it was no joke. And it was no dumbass in a ghillie suit. The whole instant took only a matter of minutes, but it never stopped grunting and growling at me, and shaking the bushes. Though it never came out in the clearing or towards me any further, it certainly made me feel like it did not want me there, and I was in danger. He was downhill from me, so it was hard for me to get a good judge at his height. But the bushes were clearly 4 to 5 feet tall, and it was well above those. So I'm going to guess it a good 7 or 8 feet tall, with shoulders a good 4 feet across, with massive arms and head, were also massive in proportion to a human. I was within 95 yards of this thing with a clean line of sight looking through quality optics, and I have never seen anything like it before or since, and I do not ever want to see another one. It was truly a spooky deal. I instinctively backed up, picked up my rifle, shouldered it, and centered the crosshairs on its face. It stared at me intently and very menacing. It would have been an easy shot, but something told me inside not to shoot something. Sorry guys. Missing punctuation, I'll get it. Very menacing. It would have been an easy shot, but something inside told me inside not to shoot something. Something told me it was absolutely the wrong thing to do. So I held my rifle up with my right hand, and I raised my left hand over my head, and I looked at him in submission. I didn't know what else to do. I slung my rifle, picked up my backpack, and headed back down the trail to camp, never looking back. Holy shit, how the hell did you do that? Ooh, never looking back, right? I never heard him or saw him again. Got back to my tent, packed up everything, headed down to the truck, and went to town. I stayed the night in town, and then I drove to a new hunting area 35 miles to the north to finish out my trip the next morning. I didn't want to waste my tag and waste my Bible vacation time, so I tried my best play. Ended up unsuccessful in filling my tag that season, and yes, I was rattled the whole effing time. I've only told my family and a few close friends my story. My son believes me. I don't know if anyone else does or doesn't. I don't really give a shit. I've got nothing to prove to anybody. And I know what I saw. And like I said, a man's word should be enough. Thanks for hearing me out. I really appreciate what you were doing. It's nice to have a sounding board to get this off my chest. It's been almost 14 years and I relive it every single day. I cannot get it out of my mind. Everything that goes bump in the night, what makes a sound in the woods, gets my immediate attention. Isn't that crazy, question mark, especially after what I've been through? Isn't that a crazy question mark, especially after what I've been through, LOL? What an effing world we live in, huh, Steve? Be careful, my friend. God bless. Feel free to contact me anytime. You can share my story with others if you want. Semper Fi, Kurt Johnson. Now, I may have read this before, I may not have, but I know we've had a handful with almost the exact same scenario. Only one time the guy said he put his hand up, and the being put his hand up. Back at him. The person, whatever you want to call him. Man, I appreciate that email big time. I'm super stoked and glad you did email it in, man. Big time. Big time. What we got here? Hold on a second. All right. Coastal British Columbia. Here we go. Hey Steve, I hope you and the missus are doing well, staying safe and healthy. I know that I asked you not to use my name when reading my previous emails, but I've changed my mind. Not that you need or want to now anyway. I feel that because so many people have had the courage to come forward and be okay with using their name with their stories, this time that I did the same. So feel free to use my name, my buddy. Even with my previous stories, we're all in this together. And here's another story for you. Sorry for the length. The last year that I went to Chelsea was 07. We didn't camp at the site where I had my sighting, but we went back because I wanted to see the place again. Looking at Google Maps now, it looks like the area has become an industrial park of sorts. When I was there in 07 with Robert, the access road for the pump station was blocked off with a 6-foot pile of dirt and rocks right at the entrance. I had a Land Rover back then and had no problem trailblazing through the thick brush around it, and we carried on down the road. When we were approaching the clearing we had camped in, about 75 meters away, a turkey vulture that was, I read this a long time ago, but I'm going to read it again, and just in honor of the guy Robert who's recently passed away. And I invited this guy to come on the channel, no reply. So listen up. This is back in the beginning. When we were approaching the clearing, we had camped in about 75 meters away. A turkey vulture that was in that clearing rushed out on the road and took off flying directly toward us while looking behind itself. It flew right toward us and wasn't any more than 30 centimeters directly above the roof of the Rover. I could see feathers on its belly through the sunroof. It was that close. Robert looks at me and says, "I've never seen a turkey vulture fly towards people. It looked like it was being chased." We drove on, and when we came to the clearing, on the left side of the road there was garbage strewn around and a stand-up freezer lying on its side with the door open, flat on the ground. And inside the freezer were 2 large plastic ice cream tubs, like the ones you get the no-name ice cream at Dominion in. They were chock full of something red with the lids on. And we were suddenly hit with a powerful stink of rotting flesh, mixed with shit and who knows what else. And it was enough to make us gag. Because of the stink, we decided to drive on to the pump station. When we reached it, the road across the right-of-way was blocked with boulders that I couldn't drive around, so we decided to park the truck and carry on by foot. When we got to the other side of the right-of-way, where boulders were again blocking the road, we heard a commotion of branches breaking and trees shaking, back by the truck and the pump house. But when we looked, we couldn't see what was going on, but the noise was still there. We shrugged our shoulders and carried on. And I was just hoping that my truck wouldn't have broken windows when we came back. We hiked for a couple of kilometers down the road. And on the left side was a sheer drop-off to a ravine below. We decided to stop for a snack and a drink. We sat down with our legs dangling over the edge and spoke quietly. And it was only minutes when we started to hear a movement on the ridge above us. Someone was walking up there. We couldn't see them, but we could hear their footsteps, and we could hear talking, a loud mumbling. And it was a familiar sound, but we couldn't make heads or tails of what was being said in a very deep voice. We stayed quiet and listened. We stared at each other, eyes wide open. We knew what we were listening to. The footsteps and the mumbling receded in the direction we come from. Each of us took breaths and started talking about what we had just heard. The ravine was about 30 feet deep, and there was a lot of Sasquatch sign in it. We stood up, brushed ourselves off, and carried on down the road. And another kilometer or so on, we took a game trail off the road and followed it to the steep trail that went down towards the sound of the river rushing below. There were trees pulled down over this descending trail. I climbed down under the first one, about a 4-foot drop. Down in this, it was dark, with a ledge that was about 1.5 meters square. Trees had been pulled in arches over this trail. And it was really dark. So dark that I couldn't see to the bottom end of the trail. And it was still in the middle of the afternoon. And that was enough for me, so I climbed out. I wasn't about to try this descent. It would have been pretty hard to get back up without ropes, but I could believe someone with 4-foot-long legs would have no trouble with it. We headed back, but the game trail seemed to have disappeared. We couldn't tell where it was. My video camera batteries had all gone dead, too. We had a video camera each. Robert had my digital still camera, and I had my 35mm. I was out of film. We bushwhacked our way back to the road, and this is where things got scary for a bit. We lost each other. 1 minute, we were only 3 meters apart laterally. The next, Robert was gone. I couldn't hear him. I called out repeatedly, and I never heard a reply. And it felt like I was being watched, and I thought Robert was ranking me. It seemed like it took me forever to reach the road again. But when I did, I was maybe 500 meters further from where we had taken the game trail. No Robert on sight. I walked back towards the pump station, calling for Robert, when he finally answered and came out of the bush on my right. "What happened to you?" he asks. Why wouldn't you answer me? I didn't hear you. I've been calling your name almost since we last saw each other. Neither one of us has heard the other calling. What's up with that? That's something we all got to take note of these days. Well, I do anyway. That's really, ever since the recording the other day, when we all heard on the video, we heard everything. And while I was there, I didn't hear nothing. Something's up. We decided to head back, and we talked about how weird the experience there had been. First, the batteries going dead, then losing the game trail that had been so obvious before, and then losing each other. The weirdest part was not being able to hear each other calling. So I'm going to interject again. Are we going somewhere they are when that happens? Do you know what I mean? Another time, another something, but in the same zone. I know I don't deliver that smoothly, but I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. When we got back to the right-of-way, I was relieved to see my truck in the same condition I left it. We climbed in and drove back up the access road towards the clearing, and when we got there, the 2 ice cream tubs were opened and empty, sitting on the ground a few feet from the freezer. Holy shit, I yelled. Those effing tubs are empty. I stopped the truck, we both got out. We each examined the tubs. No damage whatsoever, no scratch marks, no tooth marks, no punctures. Someone, or something with thumbs, had pulled the lids off and consumed the entire 4 or 5 liters of what turned out to be raspberry preserves by the smell of it. We were dumbfounded. Nobody in their right mind would have eaten something like that out of a discarded freezer. Inside the tubes were clear, giant finger marks, where the preserves had been scraped from the inside. There was only a spot of it left on one of the tubs. And suddenly, there was a loud racket of leaves shaking behind us that scared the shit out of the 2 of us. At the same time, myself and Robert jumped in the air and spun 180 degrees around. He with my little digital Canon and me with my empty 35mm, ready to take pictures. But there's nothing there but a birch tree swaying back and forth furiously, easily making a 5-foot wide arc at the top. 2 ravens suddenly fell out of the top of the tree as it was swaying. One looked like he was falling on his back and the other was just falling. Weird. At the same time, they spread their wings. The one falling backwards righted itself as it spread its wings, and the 2 of them flew away without a peep or a squawk. The only sound they made was the wings of their feathers brushing together as they flew off. It was just ravens, I said to Robert. Yeah, he agreed. And neither one of us, wondering at the time how 2 ravens would have gotten a 30-foot tall tree to sway violently back and forth in 5-foot arc at the top. Never occurred to us until we were halfway back to his house. How effed up is that? Anyway, that's already too much for now. I still have a couple more to share, but that will wait for another time. Make sure you watch your back, my buddy. Cheers. Ricardo. Gotcha, my man. I hope you email me back. I know you're here. Just let me know if you want to bullshit about those experiences or not. It's up to you. Either way, I appreciate you getting a hold of us and sending all that information to us. Big time. Okay, I'm gonna read one more and I gotta get going. Well, this is a long one. I'm going in. Near an Albertan city. Hey, how's it going? So I saw something recently on TV that made me decide to tell you of my encounter with something a couple of times now. First of all, I live in a small city in central Alberta, Canada, where I would say things like this aren't supposed to happen. Things like this you hear of happening in the mountains and various other places, but not here, which is why I'm dumbfounded by what I'm sure I saw. One day last summer, I stumbled upon a parking lot at the edge of town, kind of just out there at the edge of town where it's not really close to anything. There's one of those red garbage cans that wildlife can't get into because of how it's shaped and the fact that there's a handle on it that requires a hand with a disposable thumb to operate. There's also a brick outhouse that's supposed to clean itself after any time someone uses it. Right beside that is a trailhead for a multi-use pathway that goes through the trees and around the small lake that's part of the town. But while I was having a smoke, I thought that I should bring my bike here and go for a ride down there. So the next day I brought my bike and rode around the lake. It's about a 10-mile ride to go all the way around to get back to the start where the trailhead is. Anyway, as I was riding through the trees, I could hear something big moving through the trees. I stopped and tried to see what it was, but I couldn't see a thing in there because the bush there is actually pretty thick. Not being able to see anything in there, I got back on my bike and rode on. Well, a couple days later, I stopped at the same parking lot for a cigarette on my way home. It's a nice quiet place with very few people around. It's a nice peaceful place. It's between 11:30. It's between 11:30 and quarter to 12 at night when I pull in there and the sun hasn't long been set. Full moon's rising in the east behind the trees at the far end of the parking lot. And I get out of my car, I light my smoke, I take a drag off of it, and I hear the lid of the red garbage can dropping shut. It's loud enough that I turn my head to look. Can't really see much because that part of the parking lot doesn't have much light from the rising moon because of the thick trees. I think that I can see something moving, but I can't see clearly enough, so I shrug it off. The breeze then changes direction, and that causes the smoke from my cigarette to drift straight to my face, so I turn around. Now I'm facing north and away from the brick outhouse I mentioned earlier, which is on the south side of the parking lot. I'm still parked right by it, near the west end of the parking lot. The parking lot stretches to the east of where I'm parked, maybe 60, 70 yards, and there's a sign at the end and some posts with the reflectors on them and another garbage can. There are trees on the three sides of this parking lot and a field on the north side of it. So I'm smoking away, and out of the corner of my eye, way off to my right, I think that I can see something moving. So I turned and looked, but whatever was moving stopped. And therefore I can only see a large shadow-like thing there. But I'm about to shrug it off when I notice that whatever that shadow is, it's casting a shadow now on the parking lot pavement. The light of the moon is behind it, and some of it is getting through the trees, which is causing the shadow on the pavement. I'm not sure what I'm seeing, so I look intently at this dark thing standing there. I notice that the top of it is pretty much even with the top of the sign on the signpost. And all of a sudden, I see that the reflector on one of the smaller posts at the tree line is coming into view and then going dark over and over as if something is moving side to side and intermittently blocking out the light that's being reflected. I'm beginning to get afraid because I now realize that there's actually something standing there. Something that I can't really see clearly. And it's also something rather big. I then start to hear what sounds like a rumbling sound coming from that general direction. There shouldn't be any sound coming from that direction because there are no businesses or even any houses in that direction. It's just wilderness over there. Suddenly I can feel a huge amount of fear. It started at my feet, and then quickly went up the back of my legs and then my back until I could feel the hair on the back of my neck standing on end. I put out my smoke, jumped back in my car, and I got the hell out of there. Anyway, I pretty much completely forgot about that when I found myself pulling into the same parking lot last Sunday night for another smoke on my way home. And as I was pulling in, I remembered the incident and turned on my bright lights to survey the parking lot in a big circle before stopping for my smoke. I saw nothing, so I stopped and got out of the car. And I'm looking towards the east end of the parking lot where I saw something the summer before as I smoked my cigarette, when I hear the strangest sound come from behind me and to the right side of the brick outhouse. I turn around and I'm actually able to zero in on pretty much exactly where the sound is coming from, but I can't see what's making the sound. And the sound that I'm hearing doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard from any wildlife that's in this area, and it sounds like two sticks being clacked together really fast. Like in sets of maybe 5 or 6 clacks, then a pause, then 5 or 6 more clacks, and then a pause, and so on. And it kept repeating. And it's really intense because the sound got louder and louder and then faded off quickly and then got rather quiet. It seemed as though the sound was coming from the short grass to the right of the outhouse. So I think that maybe someone's playing a prank on me, so I moved to my right to see if there's someone standing there around the corner of the outhouse. And instead of seeing anyone standing there, I see 2 dim red lights to the right of the outhouse and up in the air, pretty close to the height of the roof line of this brick outhouse. That's between 9 and 10 feet up. And I think to myself, that's odd. So I take another look, see if maybe there's some distant streetlights or something peeking through the trees. And I look to the right and up a bit, and sure enough, I can see streetlights from a nearby residential neighborhood, but they are way brighter and not red. So I look back at the dim red lights and notice that they are moving slightly side to side. I'm now starting to feel a lot of fear again, wondering to myself, what the F is that? Just then I hear what maybe sounds like a breath, maybe an exhale. So I put out my smoke, get in my car, and I get the F out of there. Excuse me. Now what convinced me that I should tell you about this was a TV show that aired on Tuesday. The show was called Blank Bigfoot. I'm not even going to promote it. It was at the end of the episode when the two scientists had put out some apples to draw in a Bigfoot. They heard something nearby. When they turned to look, the female scientist exclaimed that she could see red eye shine. When the cameraman managed to focus in on it, I couldn't believe my eyes. The red eye shine looked just like the two dim red lights that I saw just a few nights earlier. Then the hair on my arms and the back of my neck stood up and my arms were covered in goosebumps. My heart was racing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was then that I decided that I needed to tell someone about what I saw. And you're the first one I thought of because every time you post a video, you post people's stories without judgment. I appreciate that. I've been listening to the stories you tell from other people who have had various encounters on your channel for a while now, and never once thought that I would ever have any kind of an encounter of my own, like ever in my life. I'm not going to tell you that I actually saw a Sasquatch because, to be honest, it was really dark there on Sunday night and I couldn't actually see anything except for those two dim red lights that seemed to be moving slightly from side to side. But I saw and heard something. Anyway, I'd be honored if you posted this story sometime. And by the way, I got to tell you that it's okay if you don't believe me. Most people wouldn't anyway. That's kind of why I'm not really revealing a lot about myself or where I specifically live. But I do know that this really happened. My name is Peter. This is a true story. P.S. I also believe from all the stories I've heard, the Sasquatch are sentient beings that we should just leave alone and never harm. I hope you feel the same way. Thanks again. Yeah, I'm all over it. I'm all over leaving everybody alone. No problem there, unless you try to do something to me or somebody I care about. Then it's different, right? Obviously, but you should be. Oh, my legs are asleep after sitting on this bucket. You guys see anything cross the opening back there behind me? There you go. What do you guys think? What did he see? I think he knows what he saw. That's why he emailed in. Welcome to the club, my man. I have a feeling you're probably near Red Deer, Alberta. And Red Deer, remember I ran some jobs there years ago. I remember how it's a bit of a small city, central Alberta, but there's moose from the right outside of town. A guy that was on the job there, he actually said he had a draw for moose, and he shot a bull moose right outside of town in a creek. And I guess he got pinched and got in trouble, and he screwed up. He thought it was legal, but it wasn't. So I'm just saying, back then, Red Deer, Alberta, there's moose right there in town, following a creek waterway. Anyway, a few owls got going there pretty good. Oh, my butt. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna go slip in the forest like an assassin and find some hogs, maybe videotape it and get a couple. And I think tonight we're gonna go to the thermals with Rourke and my buddy Bragg, and we're gonna do some of that tonight. Get no sleep as usual and wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go after turkey again. Oh my God. Holy shit, it's fun, but I'll tell you what, it is taxing. There's just no sleep. And then hopefully again, I'll make it back here again tomorrow. Hopefully. And who knows, maybe I'll have something exciting to share. I'll probably get some goofy stuff I'll share here. I'd imagine I've been videotaping every single day. I'll be back tomorrow. So, share my story at howtohunt.com. Just get it to me, alright? Or get it to somebody, just get it out. Get that truth shared no matter what. Don't be afraid, alright? Don't be afraid. And I'll keep you updated with how the rest of this trip goes. It should be getting quite interesting right now. Again, sorry, blah blah. I think it should be getting quite interesting as we start telling each other our stories, all of us. This guy's got a lot of stories. Holy shit. A lot. Back tomorrow.
Yeah, girl. You got it. That's what, come on. You got it, Bubs. You got it. Good girl. Spawning dog. Good girl. You got it. There you go. Good work.